All right, this is Taisei from Taisei Discovers. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever come across someone in life that made you wonder how they were so happy, how they appeared to just enjoy every aspect of life? Today we have Mark Peer. He's a retired Coast Guard helicopter rescue swimmer. He's done it for, I think, 17 years, and 15 years of that he was doing rescues. Something that I've always admired, somebody putting their life on the line to save other lives. Mark, welcome to
Thanks,
Taisei
Ty.
Discovers, my friend.
Thanks. It's so good to be here. I'm so stoked to be here.
Thank you, man. So, I've been doing this first responder series where, I interviewed a police officer. We talked about some of the things that happened to them on the job. We did a lifeguard, which is really interesting because you're a man of the ocean as well, but you worked for a federal institution. You worked for the U.S. government and as a Coast Guard. Let's kind of talk about the origins and what made you jump into that career path.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was kind of thinking about that on the way here, and it's really just, I think it was a combination of a few different things. I think the main thing was I met Malia when I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And
Your wife?
my wife, yep. And I just knew, I was like, oh, all I want to do is, I guess I was kind of weird. I was like, all I want to do is settle down and have a family. And I didn't really know, like, what was the path to that? Like, how could we just go and get a house? Like, all I wanted to do was just, like, move out of my house and go and get a house with her and start our family and sort of, like, build this sort of, like, fantasy of our life that I had in my mind, which I think we've done, like, pretty well. There's a balance. And so there was that. So I needed a job. I needed a job. I was working at Starbucks at the time, and I was doing some freelance video stuff. But a lot of that was, it was never seemed like it was enough for me, or I wasn't ready at that time in my life to really take that to the next level. So I said, yeah, I really need a job. I asked Malia to marry me. I asked her dad first.
Nice.
And that was kind of his he was so cool about it. He was so cool about it. And he's like, well, you're going to need to be able to provide for her and your family. Mm-hmm. And so he actually sat me down, and no one's ever done this to me before, where they've just been like, hey, this is my job. This is my paycheck. This is what I make every month. This is what our bills are. This is reality. And he did it in such a cool way that I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to join the military. And so that was one part of it. Mm-hmm. The next part of it was, okay, like, now that I've made that decision, I'm going to join the military. I need to get a job that is going to, like, compliment me. And, like, I need a job that I'm going to love doing, because I can't do something that I don't love. So I went to all the recruiting offices, and I almost joined the Marines. And then I almost joined the Army. And, like, sort of, like, last minute, I ran into one of the uncles at Barbers, and he's like, what are you doing with your life? I was 19. And I'm like, yeah, at that point, I was like, I'm about to join the Army, I'm going to get a bonus. And I was really excited to get our life started. And he's like, dude, you don't want to join the Army. And I was like, he's like, join the Coast Guard. And I'm like, well, okay. I was pretty committed already to, like, wanting to join the Army. And then he's like, go to the Coast Guard recruiter and talk to them. And I'm like, well, what do you do in the Coast Guard? He's like, I'm a helicopter rescue swimmer. And I was like, no way. I was like, and at the time, the movie The Guardian had just come out, and I seen it, and I was like, no way. And then that night I went to Blockbuster and I rented it, and I was like, bro, this is what I want to do. Like, this is insane. I can just live by the coast and jump out of helicopters and save people and get paid to do it and get a housing allowance and be able to start my family, and then to also be able to check off this box of, like, doing something that I thought was pretty amazing. And I think another part of that was I had some insecurities as a young man about, like, inner strength and outer strength and inner strength. I wasn't like a super athlete. I didn't have a really strong personality. So I kind of had to like tap into something that I didn't know if I had it or not. And going through the rescue swimmer program, it proved a lot to myself that I really felt like I needed at the time. And so that was another reason why I wanted to do it. That's kind of reason number 2. I needed to prove something to myself. And then reason number 3 was I wanted to help people. Malia and I had done some work. We had gone to Africa a few times doing humanitarian work and filming documentary stuff and working with kids, and nothing ever felt more fulfilling than helping people. So I was so fortunate to be able to lock into this job where I got to do all 3 of those things, right? I got to like have the financial security, and we got the little house by the beach, and we started our little family. And then I got to I graduated the program, and I got to work with all these amazing guys and girls, amazing guys and girls, just amazing, like the strongest, best people I could have ever imagined being around. And I got to help people as well. Yeah. So it was just, yeah.
So it seems like you're living your purpose, right?
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think I would say for those first 10 years in the Coast Guard, like nothing could have been better. Nothing could have been better. Doing it for, 17 years, my last 5 years, I think I was ready to start my next chapter. Yeah. And I was kind of leaning in towards that entrepreneurship.
Okay.
We started businesses. We start a business, it fails. We start another business, it fails. We try, it kind of works. And then we finally got one right. And so we leaned into that. But I would say for those first 10 to 12 years in, it was my dream. It was the dream job.
And people go through seasons, in life, and people evolve. So your purpose kind of can evolve as well. I want to talk about some details, the gritty stuff after Coast Guard boot camp, or maybe even let's start with Coast Guard boot camp. What's that like?
Coast Guard boot camp is underrated. It was terrifying for me. I was 19. I lived at home with my parents my whole life. Really like a really tight family, really supportive parents. And then I joined the Coast Guard. That you get there, they screaming at you. They lock you in a barber chair, shave your head, skin bald, all of you're just looking around. And I remember that first night I was at boot camp. I snuck out of my bed and I just walked into we had a little locker, and I opened it up and I went into I took out I had a photo album, and I walked into the bathroom and I sat there and I just looked at pictures of my family, of Malia and my mom and my dad and my sister and my friends, and I was crying. And I was like, I can't do this. I was panicking. I'm not cut out for this. I was just with all these 120 strangers in a room, and we're all just racked up on bunks. I'm like, what am I doing here? And I'm like, okay, just make it through the first night. And every day got better, and every day I felt like I got a little more stronger and a little more okay with being extremely uncomfortable.
Wow. So that was like character building moment. That's the whole point of boot camp. It's to get everybody on the same page. And it starts here. Let's put you through some of these challenges, that adversity, physically, mentally, spiritually. You're like, what the fuck? You want to run, but you can't.
I wanted to run.
But okay, so you get a notch stronger. Yeah. And then what after that?
So graduated boot camp, came back home for a quick, I think it was like 6 or 7 days, packed up my stuff, and I was off to Florida. Reported to my first unit. It was a ship, a 210-foot ship. We call them cutters in the Coast Guard. Walked up with my big green, we call it a sea bag, big green sea bag, 19 years old, shaved head, 130 pounds. Everyone just mean mugs you when you get to the boat. They just look at you like this, just getting in your head even more. I'm like, oh, here we go. But I just kept I walked in, I just kept my head low, just was respectful, and I just worked. My whole vision, constantly reminded myself every day, like, hey, like keep yourself, don't get comfortable here. That was my big thing. Like, don't get comfortable in this situation because you haven't achieved your goal yet.
Yeah.
Like the goal was to graduate rescue swimmer school and be a rescue swimmer in Hawaii. So every day I just kept myself uncomfortable. I gravitated towards the other guys who were serious about training for rescue swimmer school. I stayed away from the people who would speak negativity into me.
Yep.
I stayed away from them. I only hung with the positive people who were getting after it. And for the next year and a half, I worked and I trained.
So you're working on a cutter, 210 Coast Guard ship. Is it like a patrolling ship?
Yep.
Okay, so this is where you're kind of learning so that you can get into rescue swimmer school.
Yeah, so in the Coast Guard, for the most part, once you graduate boot camp, they call you a non-rate, so you don't have a job. In the Coast Guard, they call jobs rates. So you're a no-job guy. So you just show up, pick up a broom, and just start sweeping. You know, just start mopping, just start cleaning bilges.
Kind of like a dishwasher in a restaurant.
Dishwasher in a restaurant.
The entry level position.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
I watched the way that you guys work in the restaurant, and it is it's almost exactly like a military. It seems like that to me. Like you've got like
the captain.
You're the captain when I walk in there. I'm like, okay, Ty's obviously the captain, and then you've got like your executive officers, you've got your operations officers, you've got it. And it goes
the tiers.
It goes in tiers.
Yeah.
It's top to bottom.
Wow. Okay. So after working with the broom on the deck, right? How did you get into helicopter rescue swimmer school?
Yeah. So after working with the broom on the deck, I for a few months, opportunity came up on the boat that, hey, do you want to be a boat rescue swimmer? Oh. And I'm like, yeah. So I got to go do some training with a couple really good guys. And then we were boat rescue swimmers, which really didn't mean much. We didn't do much. We were just there for when we did a lot of migrant interdiction out in Florida.
Okay.
So we would try and we were just guarding the coast, Coast Guard. We were just
like Cubans on boats.
Yeah. Yep. So we would
rafts.
Yeah, they would. It was that was a weird mix of emotions because, on one hand, you have 100 people on this little boat, and everyone has their. It's so sad. Everyone has their suitcase, and they're literally just trying to get to America to just build a better life for themselves and their family.
Because if they step on shore, then we have to process them.
Cubans, yes.
Cubans, okay.
They're the only ones. I want to say the Cubans are the only ones where if they get to shore, they get amnesty, I think.
Amnesty.
Yeah. So it was sad. It was sad because we would grab these people and they're like, it would be like a mom and a dad and their kids.
They just want a better life.
And we would bring them on the boat. And we always did it with respect and dignity, because everyone on the boat, we all are normal people and we all have families. Yeah. So we see these people with families that are like, so many of our hearts, I'm emotional, but I remember going back into my rack one night and I was just teary eyed because I'm like, what? This doesn't feel right. But it was part of part of my path.
Is there ever a situation when you had to intercept somebody that stands out to you?
Yeah. It's funny because it wasn't a family. It was just a guy. It was a single guy. And I could just sense that he was so desperate and he was so broken and devastated, and I just won't forget his face. It's I don't know why, it was just a guy who stood out to me.
Totally understand.
He was so devastated, and you could just tell you could see people's worlds being shattered.
The desperation, the pain and torment that these people have probably went through where their homeland is. Yeah. And then they see this America and how great America seems, and then Coast Guard, I'm going back. Yeah. And you're the one with a big heart that has to do it.
Yeah.
That's difficult. Do you ever have nightmares or?
I don't have nightmares about that. I have nightmares about helicopter crashes a lot. I have nightmares about being held underwater. On rescue missions. Even though I never crashed in a helicopter and I've never been, pulled down, like, I don't know, it was just like a great fear that I think that I had that has actually caught up to me now. At the time, I didn't think about that at all. It's just like I'm invincible. Mm-hmm. And now those thoughts like creep into my mind a lot.
So it's a real thing. It's post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a helicopter crash off of Barbers Point where everyone died.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that story thinking how unfortunate that is for first responders and rescuers to go down in that manner. Were you supposed to be on that helicopter?
No, I wasn't supposed to be on that helicopter. I wasn't here yet. I was actually on that 210-foot ship when that happened. I remember the day it happened. The captain of the ship called all of us together and he said, hey, something really bad happened and I'm gonna tell you guys about it. And I just remember thinking, whoa, that's my path. That's what I want to do right now. And all those guys just died, And
on a training mission?
It was on a training mission. Yeah, it was on a routine nighttime training mission. I want to say they put the basket down to the boat. The basket's connected to a cable. Mm-hmm. Conditions were pretty rough. The basket or the cable wrapped around something on the boat. It pulled down the boom that was holding the cable to the basket. And then when the cable snapped, the boom hit the blades. Oh. For a second, they were in control. They said, okay, we're in control. There was definitely differing opinions in the helicopter of what some people thought should be done. And they made the wrong decision to go up to 500 feet and try and fly back home. They were still in control, but it came apart at that point
because there was damage from the boom.
Yeah.
Wow. What could have been an alternative option?
Yeah, policies were put into place after that, and our procedures changed. So now, if something like that happens, we call it, we have emergency procedures for almost every scenario. And unfortunately, a lot of those scenarios are based on mistakes that were made in real cases. Mm-hmm. So now for, I want to say it's intolerable vibrations, you land or ditch the helicopter immediately. Mm-hmm. We have floats on the helicopter. Mm-hmm. We're trained to get out of a helicopter that's flipped underwater with our eyes closed. Mm-hmm. So that offers us our best chance of survival. Everything we do, every mission that we take, every training mission that we take, we evaluate risk and gain. Mm-hmm. And if the risk outweighs the gain, there's no mission. Mm. The gain has to outweigh the risk. So now, even with that sort of situation, like there is gain to putting a helicopter in the water.
Understood.
And to everyone trying their best to get it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So they tried to fly up and head back, but there's too much damage in which the procedure now is you'd probably just go straight to the water.
Yeah. Yep.
And float.
Pop the floats, put it in the water, put the brake on so the blades don't chop up, and turn off the electrical, turn off the fuel, get out of the plane.
Wow, that is very, very heavy. So Coast Guard, I do see a lot of those helicopters, and they're really cool looking, appearing anyway. Yeah. The white and orange. You see them doing training missions up and down the coast. Yeah. How many different types of aircraft are in a Coast Guard?
So right now we have 2 different types of helicopters, but we're kind of phasing out the one that you see out here. Mm-hmm. So we have the MH-65 Dolphin, which is it's a smaller, we call it like it's like our short range search and rescue helicopter. Mm-hmm. It can only fly about 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And then we have the 60, which most people know it as a Black Hawk. We call it a Jayhawk. Mm-hmm. And that helicopter can fly, I want to say close to 5 hours. Wow. I was never on that helicopter, but that one is basically taking over. Like we should have it in the Hawaiian Islands too, because we're always island hopping. So by the time we get to the big island in our small helicopter, we got to go get gas and then go and proceed to our mission.
Okay.
So so we're working on getting those bigger helicopters, hopefully out here soon, so those guys can have it. And then we have C-130s, and then we have a few other fixed-wing aircrafts that were, I think, kind of duds that we're just phasing out.
Because I've seen like Coast Guard like airplanes.
Yeah,
phasing them out.
Yeah. We had like, we called them Falcons, and it was a business jet that they turned into a search and rescue asset. That's the other thing about the Coast Guard is like we're like the redheaded stepchild of the military, where they're like, oh shoot, we forgot to fund the Coast Guard. Like, you
Take
know,
this
like,
FedEx plane.
right?
Yeah.
It's like that all the time. Like the Navy will give us their old helicopters because we're like, oh, you only put 10,000 hours on that thing. They're like, we can run that thing for 30 more years.
Yeah.
Like that's literally like the mindset.
Tell me this: how is the Coast Guard looked at in terms of a branch of the military? To the Navy guy, the Marines, and are they like
they make fun of us a lot for sure. I always thought it was funny because I'm just like, this is a job for me, and like I do like, and I know what I do, but definitely like a lot of people, they joke around. They call it the puddle pirates because we don't go far out. You know, we don't go far out. We're just right on the coast.
But without the Coast Guard, who do you got?
I mean, yeah, there's other search and rescue.
Like HFD
agencies, yep.
They have it.
HFD is amazing. Yep.
So what's jurisdiction wise, responsibility wise? If where does the Coast Guard come in, and where does HFD come in when it comes to search and rescue?
That's a good question, and the really simple answer is like what I tell people is if it's over 5 miles out and it's at night, we're gonna do it. Like that's kind of like that's definitely not any sort of policy written there like that, but that's just kind of how it washes out. Like HFD is really, really good about just picking people up out of the water with their helicopter or off cliffs. They're really, really good and efficient at it. We're a little bit slower. We have a much larger aircraft, and we have a much larger crew. They run with a single pilot, I think, most of the time, and they'll pick up one qualified HFD swimmer.
Yeah.
So they're fast. But us, we have 4 people. When we get a case, we go up to the operations center. We talk about the case, decide, 9 times out of 10, we're going to accept the case. And then we go and we execute it.
How many people fit in that helicopter?
It depends. It depends on how much fuel we have in the helicopter. It depends on how much weight we have in the helicopter. There's been times, I haven't done this, but where we throw everything out of the helicopter. Because there's people that we need to get out of the water. So we just throw everything out of the helicopter and put more people inside.
Wow, whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes.
Saving the life is the most important.
Yes.
So I've heard a situation, because I was doing some research, watching some different Coast Guards talk about their experiences, and there's some fascinating stuff that has happened, and some very selfless acts of courage that I've seen or heard about. There's this one situation where the Coast Guard was responding somewhere in really deep waters at night, and there were multiple people to save. And the rescue swimmer went down, brought everyone up one by one, and then there wasn't space for the rescue swimmer. So they just knew, rescue swimmer, I'm going back in the water. There's another helicopter coming to pick me up. And that helicopter that the rescue swimmer was in went back to shore. And this guy waited for a couple of hours in the middle of the ocean with a beacon or something.
Oh yeah, that's kind of normal. I've never done it, but it's definitely happened a handful of times to guys in the shop with me, because you put 4 people in the cabin, we cannot have any more people. The helicopter is not strong enough.
Wow.
The helicopter is too weak. So we're gonna stay.
Yeah.
We're trained.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay. And yeah, it's normal. It's normal. Yeah.
And so you just have something that
So the helicopter will go ahead and mark your position, deploy a raft, and probably just turn on your radio, and you're just out there. We call it our raft is called the Shark Taco.
The Shark Taco.
Yeah, it's just this little yellow raft, and it looks just like a taco, and there's like a red stripe down the middle of it, and it's about 4 feet long, so we have to go cross-leg inside.
Yeah.
And there's a little zipper that you zip up to keep the elements off of you, and you just put your EPIRB on, and you just hope that they find you. Yeah.
I'm sure there were instances where they weren't found.
Or
or it might be rare, but I mean,
there were instances where the swimmer was left out too long and almost died.
Okay.
For sure.
I mean, what if the swells are surging?
Yeah.
There has to be super gnarly conditions out there.
It gets gnarly out there. It gets gnarly out there in the open water, especially like when the winds are over 25 miles per hour sustained. You go out 5, 6, 7 miles, 10 miles, 30, 40 miles, and the swells, they're, 12 to 15 feet and they're breaking regularly. So you put yourself in that situation for 4 or 5 hours, like no matter how trained you are, like you're like something's gonna give eventually, We had a guy who I just heard the story, but he got left on scene during a hurricane and the helicopter couldn't get him. They couldn't get the raft to him. They left him on scene and they didn't get to him for a really long time. I can't remember how long it was, but it was hours.
Did he survive?
He survived, but he thought he was gonna die.
Of course.
He thought he was gonna die. Yeah. And there's been a lot of situations where like I thought I was gonna die for a second.
Like what?
The gnarliest one is when I first got back to Hawaii. We just moved back from North Carolina, and I was actually doing my requalification syllabus, and it was one of my last flights. I think it was my last flight. I was just going to go to the front of a Coast Guard boat. So it was just got dark. And so I'm getting hoisted down, and the plan was I was just gonna go down to the boat, touch the boat, high five the guy, pretend to do a scenario real quick, and then go right back up, never disconnect. There was a miscommunication in the helicopter, so I go down to the front of the boat. They thought I was gonna disconnect. And so as soon as the helicopter puts the swimmer down onto a boat and the swimmer disconnects, it's in the best interest for the helicopter to go back and high, because it's a much safer place for that helicopter to be and they could watch us. So they went to go back and high, but I was still connected to the cable. And I just remember like corner of my eye watching the cable from the deck go like, and just thinking, I'm too late to do anything. And it just I'm connected to my harness, and it just boom, it just grabbed me. And I flew from the front of the boat into the back guardrails on the boat. We call it the fantail. And my back just connected with it, like my back right here, and it just bop, and I hit the ground. Thank God they paid out cable. They paid out so much cable because they realized it instantly. Oh, okay. And I was on the ground, and so much adrenaline hit me that I just stood back up, and everyone on the boat looked at me like dead man walking, like, and they were like a guy came up to me and he like grabbed me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." It was just like that. There's so much adrenaline, and then I just give the thumbs up, and I go into the helicopter, and I'm like, "Am I okay?" Like, when you get so hurt and you don't know how hurt you are.
I don't know like that.
That was my worst one.
This one time I stubbed my toe. And I didn't notice for a little bit. No, but I can't imagine, because that's the kind of adrenaline that you could break your back and then you go up there and then you realize, 10 minutes later, like, oh my God.
Oh, and it's happened before. I thought I might have broke my back. Yeah. Okay. I didn't, thank God. But I definitely got like, I have scar tissue all along that side of my back because of that. And
those are the kind of injuries that might revisit you later in life.
They do. Yeah, they do. It just did. I was on my ass the past couple days because I took the kids to the obstacle course at the Waikai, and I thought I was like 25 again, and I was like climbing the ropes with the kids, and then the next day I went to go move, and it was just like what? And I was like, oh my God.
Was that the injury from that?
Yeah, same spot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that one still haunts me. That was my worst. That was like my closest like faces of death. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that could have been Final Destination type shit, It
was close.
So, I mean, like, what about like rescue missions at sea?
Yeah.
Saving somebody or up, what do you call it when the boat capsizes?
Yeah.
A lot of those?
Yeah, a lot of those. A lot of plane crashes. And I kind of like play out the scenario. Like I feel like it'll be better if I just kind of paint the picture of how it goes. Okay, so a few times a week, we're kind of like a firehouse. So a few times a week, you stand a 24-hour duty shift, And when you're on that duty shift, you're going to have a rescue swimmer, a flight mechanic, also known as, like, most people call it like a winch operator. So they operate the cable. They do so much more than that. But that's the pictures that you always see them in. A pilot and a co-pilot. So the pilot is obviously flying that plane in some they're so good. These pilots are so good and they're so smart. The co-pilot is backing up that pilot on everything from like navigation, altitude, wind conditions, sort of just like relaying all the communications to the pilot. And then you got your flight mechanic, who's basically in charge of everything engineering in the helicopter, and also lowering and picking up the rescue swimmer, the survivors, and the rescue devices. And then the rescue swimmer who goes out of the plane and either, swims in the water or goes down to a boat or a cliff. But so a few times a week, there's 4 of us, and we stand duty, and we do training flights, and we're also on the hook for any sort of search and rescue that pops off. So normally that search and rescue pops off at night. So we're at our room. We all stay in like this little, it's like a little inn. We all have our own room. It's kind of, it's nice. We have a TV and our own bathroom and a kitchen and stuff. And the alarm goes off. And it happens, like, I swear it happens most nights. That alarm goes off and it wakes you up out of bed. And the 4 of you, we meet up at the operations center. We talk about, hey, what's going on? If it's a medical case, we call it the Coast Guard flight surgeon. I call the flight surgeon, and it's basically a doctor who's on duty who is the doctor is on duty so that I can just call. So, because I'm an EMT, I call the doctor. I'm like, okay, here's what we got. These are the symptoms. What do you want me to do? And the doctor's like, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. The doctor's like, keep this person's airway open, put them on oxygen, put them in a position of comfort. If their heart stops, throw an AED on them, start pumping on their chest. Their breathing stops, bust out the bag valve mask, and start pumping oxygen into their lungs until you get to the hospital. And it's really as simple as that. So we either make that call if it's medical. If it's not medical, if there's people in the water, I won't even go up to the operations center. I'm just throwing on my wetsuit. I'm like, give me the cliff notes. Get in the helicopter, take off. We'll brief in flight. The pilot usually has all the information for the most part. The pilot will be the last one to come out. So it's usually like the co-pilot will run to the plane, get the plane started. So it's like, the flight mechanic will assist that co-pilot in doing that. Rescue swimmer and the pilot will usually have a quick, like, what's the situation? How are we going to approach this? And then I'll go and throw my wetsuit on really quick. If everything's moving too quick, I'll just wear my flight suit and change in the helicopter. It's not ideal, but it's just like, it is what it is.
Depending on the severity of the call.
Yeah. Once we get on scene, we'll do a couple orbits around the boat or the plane crash, or the people in the water, and we'll figure out like what's the best way to get these people out of the water. And it's a wild thing because I am so scared of heights. Like, I'm terrified of heights. But when we're in that helicopter, all I'm thinking about, it's so crazy. All right, like, I want to kind of like, if there's a way that I could bring you into this scenario, it's like, imagine like 4 of the most highly trained people at their jobs who are down to put this thing like to the wire, who are so locked in. And so we fly over. You've got your pilot. If we're over a sailboat, our rotor blades are spinning sometimes 5 to 10 feet above this mast that's going like this. The pilot is so locked in. So they have their cyclic and they have their collective, and they're just like this. For 30 minutes, these guys are locked in 5 feet above this boat. The co-pilot is just calling out everything that they see. Like, pull up. Like, it's not uncommon for the co-pilot to just be like, pull up. And it's like, whoa. It's wild. The margin of error is so close. So while all this is happening, The flight mechanic is getting the boom ready and getting the cable ready, sending the cable back to me. I'm just like, okay, take off my helmet. I'm just like sort of like getting into like I kind of had like a flow. Like I just kind of like, I'm chilling. I unplug, take off my helmet, put on my water helmet, look at my harness, make sure it's all good. Cable comes, I clip in. Once I clip in, I just lean back and I just wait. I can't hear anything. It's just screaming sound. And then the flight, because we already know what we're gonna do. And then I just wait. And then the flight mechanic will just like look and he'll just put 2 taps at the door because the door's already open. So then I just take a breath. I already got my fins on. I got all my stuff. I just slide, kick my feet out the door. At this point, we're usually around 80 feet, depending. Like if we're over the water, we're at around 80 feet at this point. If we're over a cliff, we could be at like 300, 400, 500 feet. And then the flight mechanic gives you 1 pat on your chest. As soon as he pats me on my chest, I take off my, we call it a gunner's belt. It's our seat belt that has a long tether. I take off my gunner's belt, check my fins, check my Triton harness, check my mask, check my snorkel, give him a thumbs up. As soon as that happens, he puts my hand down, lifts me up, boom. I swing out of the helicopter, I do a 180, plant my feet on the edge of the helicopter and just lean back and just look down at whatever like my mission is. So at this point, I'm doing a scene size up. I'm saying like, what's the best way? You know, how many people do we have in the water? Who should I get first? What's the best possible way to do this? Because at this moment, we also have limited time. So whether the people have limited time to survive in the water or we have limited fuel. So as I'm going down, I'm making my scene size up. It's really not that complicated. I really just usually grab the person who is closest to me or the person who doesn't have flotation on. You know, it's as simple as that. If someone doesn't have flotation, is having a hard time swimming, I'm gonna grab them, shove them in the basket, send the basket up. Okay, go to the next person. Grab the next person, shove them in the basket, set them up. Third person, I don't want the basket anymore. I want the sling because we could reduce a hoist. I'm gonna go up with this person. So I wrap that person up, lock them in, wrap my legs around them, put the sling, and we go up. Once we get up into the plane, now it's like kind of game on as an EMT. Now I'm doing like any life-saving interventions that I have to do until we get to the hospital. And it's like that. it's just like that.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it is.
That's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
How many lives have you saved in the 17 years?
I don't know. Like, not hundreds.
It doesn't matter.
You know,
I mean, if you
know.
save 20, I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Like tons of medevacs, capsized boats, 1 airplane crash, which was amazing that almost everyone lived.
Was that here?
Yeah, that was off of Molokai, Kalaupapa.
Was it a Cessna?
Yeah. It was a small plane, single engine plane. I don't know if it was a Cessna, but it was something like that.
So the pilot landed the plane well. Yep. So in the ocean,
the pilot saved everybody.
They're floating in the ocean, slowly going down.
Yep.
You guys get there, and there has to be what? How many people?
9 people, I think, in the water. But
so you needed 2 separate.
At this point, we have 3 helicopters on scene.
3, okay.
I was the last helicopter on scene, but it was such a mental scenario. This was my first case.
Yeah.
I was young. I think I was 22 years old. It was like my first real water case. And I'm with a pretty seasoned crew, like a solid crew. And the pilot, who's like, he was our engineering officer. So he's an old head already, you know? And I was a young buck, and he knew it. He was this cool guy. And he like looks back, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to go in." He was like, "Let's go." It was like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's go. So I get down. The first guy I get to, he's fully panicking, just like in training. Grabs onto me, tries to pull me underwater. I just grab his face, spin him around, and I squeeze him so tight to like let him know, like, hey, you're not in control, I'm in control. And that's that. There's no feelings talked here. Like, I'm in control.
Yes.
So I put him in the basket. I send him up. he's like, I put him in the basket and he's like, my wife. He's like, I don't know where she is. And I'm like, I'll find her. So I put him in the basket. I look around, there's no one around. The flight mechanic, local boy, shout out to Lopaka Hele Polole from the east side. He sends me down the hook. I clip in, and it's like so wild because it's like usually they bring us all the way back into the plane. Bro, they pulled me up like 10 feet out of the water. Flew me. They could see the next person.
Okay.
So they flew me to the next person, dropped me in the water. I get to a lady who was about that guy's age, but she's deceased. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm like, no way. I have to bring up. This guy's already panicking, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I have to bring up his dead wife. And so I grab her and I go. I'm with her. I lock her in. I'm like, hey, she's gone. Yeah. I bring her up, and I get to the edge of the helicopter, and we're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to put our back towards the helicopter. But I put my back towards the helicopter because when I was in the water, she had a purse still connected to her. So I cut her purse off, but I opened it and I pulled out her ID.
Hanging from the helicopter?
Yeah. So I cut her purse off her because it was holding her down. It was pulling us in the water. So I cut it off. But before I let it go, I pulled out her ID.
Okay.
And so my back's up against the helicopter, and the guy's, I could see him. He's sitting in the basket still, and he can't even get out of it. He's beat. He's just got in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And he's 70 years old.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And he's holding on to the basket and shaking. And I look at him, and he's like this, and I said, no. Like, and I showed him the ID, and he's like, that's not her. And I said, okay. So I spin around. I slide her in the cabin. And there was a moment there, and it wasn't such a negative moment as much as it was like, this is what we do. Like, this is my life, and this is what I do. This is my job, and I'm doing my job. And the time for sorrow is definitely not right now. There's 7 more people still in the water, and there's 1 guy who's missing. But there was a moment I slide her in, and the guy in the basket, her eyes were still open. And the guy in the basket, he just like so sweetly just like puts his hand on her head, and he rubbed her head. And then he
You're good, bro. You're good. Thank you for sharing, bro.
And he closed her eyes. And then went back to work. Yeah.
Got me crying too. So to finish that story, you went back down. This job wasn't done. Was his wife recovered?
Yeah, she was alive.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. The other helicopter picked her up. And we all met at Kalaupapa on the flight strip, and it was chaos. We had C-130s flying overhead, smoke everywhere in the water because the Navy, so cool, the Navy got on scene. They didn't have a rescue swimmer, but they were like, we're going to mark every survivor for you guys. So they threw out smoke. So there's smoke, red smoke everywhere on the water. You've got a C-130 flying overhead at 1,000 feet, a Navy helicopter flying at 500 feet, HFD, 2 Coast Guard helicopters. I just see 2 other rescue swimmers, and we're just going down, just working.
Fuck, it's so beautiful. The collaboration between all the different departments.
It's so crazy to see it all, the way it all goes down.
I feel like there's, when you think about things like that, you feel like all the bad things in the world kind of don't seem as bad because there's so many good people out there doing this type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a powerful case. And it was my first real rescue. I've done some medevacs up until that point, but they were softballs. Yeah. They were light work, you know. It was like, oh, I go down, you know, someone, you know, like a lot of times too, we're like just going and doing missions where we pick up people off of cruise ships because they have freakouts.
Okay.
You know, they like you get a person who freaks out. Oh, I'm having a heart attack. We go pick them up off the cruise ship. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, they're not having a heart attack, but the cruise ship doesn't want them on there. They don't want to go 1,000 miles with them. But every once in a while, you get a case that sticks with you, a big time one like that, and I'm super proud of it. I'm so proud of like what we were able to accomplish that day, and like I get emotional about it, but like there's nothing that I don't feel anything inside where I should have done anything differently. Mm-hmm. So that makes me feel okay.
I think that's absolutely the mentality, the ideal mentality for somebody post, you know, because you retired in December.
Yeah, I didn't officially retire. I didn't re-enlist.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's not much different.
Do you still get retirement?
I do. I get a pension I get disability from the VA.
Oh, okay.
Based on like the injuries that I sustained while in the military.
Do you ever want to get back out there?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's a door that I won't open again, I don't think. Yeah.
Well, we're older men now.
Yeah.
You know, next chapter. How old are you?
I'm 37.
You're not that old, bro. But I mean, for what they do, right? You've put in your time and your valiant efforts.
Yeah.
And you've kind of made your mark, and I'm sure you're a ledge in that department.
Nah.
Gotta be, bro.
Another.
Because does everybody else have this energy? No. Not too many people that I know have the stoke. Like I said in an opening statement, like sometimes I just look at you and I think, is this guy really this happy?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you definitely have some inner things going on, but
yeah.
I mean, the way that you're dealing with it and your outlook, you know, on your experiences seem to be pretty aware.
I try to just focus on what really matters to me these days. And I try my best to just, like at this point, just be with my family and go to the beach and take the kids surfing and be there for them, and like however I can support them and help them on their journey to become young adults. I got, you know, a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Which is the most important now, right?
Yeah.
And your wife and having that strong bond, because in the Coast Guard, you're away from your wife. She's worrying about you when you're out there.
For sure.
And there's enough putting her through that now. Let's take some high quality photos.
Yeah. Like, I'm so glad I don't have to send her that text message every night. Like when we get launched, I would always just be like, launching, love you. That was it. I just wanted her to know like that I love her and that I'm gone. Like, and like in my mind, we're always going to come back. But then in reality, like not everyone always comes back. You know, most of the time, obviously we do. But I know you never know what situation you're getting into, because when that alarm goes off, it's just like, hey, like it's a really loud alarm that wakes you up really abruptly, and all you're thinking is like, there's some of the legends came up with, like, they call it the rules of SAR, the rules of search and rescue. And the first rule, and it's the only rule I ever remember, the first rule is everything you've heard is a lie. That's it. That's the first rule. So like, no matter people, you work with these big organizations and like people are doing their best to give information objectively, but then there's like that human element where sometimes people will embellish.
Yeah.
And then it'll plant different thoughts and ideas in your head of how you should play out this scenario. And so one of the things that you always have to remind yourself is like, hey, you're going to take everything that you've heard with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So everything you heard is a lie. So like, you're going to make the decision when you get on scene, what you're going to do. And as a rescue swimmer, once you get in the water and you disconnect from that plane, you're in command.
Use your intuition.
Use your
intuition.
intuition.
Your experience. What is the best way to go about this, right?
What's the best way to go about this? Yeah.
Shit. That was a very, very heavy conversation. I do want to talk about where you are now, the character that experience has built, and how it sets you up for the next chapter.
I'm figuring it out. And actually, it's been a bit challenging these past couple months, going from, you know, like having like an elite job as a helicopter rescue swimmer and then transitioning into, being an entrepreneur, there's far different challenges. And I'm finding these challenges to be just as challenging. I'm finding owning my own business to be almost as challenging as going through rescue swimmer training. It's long days. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of risk, and there's a lot of leaps of faith that we've been having to take. And there's a lot of sacrifice that comes along with it. And so we're figuring it out. There's been a lot of sacrifice lately. We've just been grinding. You know how people always say, I always say, like, I never want to be one of those guys say, we've been grinding really hard. Yeah. We've been grinding really hard. Like, it's stupid. Yeah. Malia's on the computer till midnight almost every night. Like, it's nuts. I'm on the computer. I can't do midnight. I'll dawn patrol the computer to just get edits done. We have editors now, which is great. But yeah, we've been going pretty hard and trying to find a balance. That's where I'm at right now. And I'm working on it.
Yeah, I see that. Man, I admire you so much more knowing all of this about you. There's just always something I liked about you. So your role as a husband and as a father in the family, I know that your experience in the Coast Guard has built a certain type of character. Now going through this post-season, this new season of entrepreneurship, and also working with your wife.
Yeah.
How's your relationship with her?
It's good. There's, like I said, these past few months, they've been really challenging because we put everything but ourselves first. We put everything before us. And like, it's tough. It's tough, you know. It's awesome to work with Malia. Like, me and Malia have always worked great together. Like, before me and Malia dated, we were really good friends. Like, I was friends with their whole family. Like, Kona, her brother's one of my best friends. And
Kona, shout
out to Kona. I love Kona.
I love Kona too.
But Kona was one of my best friends, and like Kona's like a big brother to me, and like he really took me under his wing when he was a couple years older than me, and he really took me under his wing when I felt like I didn't really have a lot of people in my corner. Like, I was really, like I said, like I was a shy kid. I surfed a lot, and I had some good friends, and the military pulled some of my really good friends away from me because their parents were in the military. So actually, yeah, like my best friend moved, and we were best. It was the weirdest thing because for 5 years, my best friend, Travis, we hang out every single day, and our houses are right, a few streets over from each other. And then the next, like, he's gone. And I'm like, what? This is not fair, And so I was just like, for a while there, I was just felt real sort of kind of alone in the world. And then I just clicked with Kona and made really good friends with him and started hanging out with them. And like I said, he was like a big brother to me. And then I became like really good friends with his sister. And I was like, I fell in love with her. I totally, like, before we were even dating, like, and I knew in my heart that this is the person who I want to be with. And I was doing video stuff and she was doing photography. Yeah. And it's kind of crazy because we were 15 and 16 then. And now I'm doing video stuff and she's doing photography still. And we're doing it as a business. And I think we work really well together. These last months have been stressful though, because it's like you go from doing like all these creative projects of like exactly what you want to do to like now doing projects for other people who like you might not be as like passionate and invested in.
And it becomes work.
It's full work.
Full work.
But we're finding the balance. We're doing our best. We really are doing our best to find the balance. And we're also doing our best to like try to like make time for each other and for the kids.
They're surfing.
Their
little groms ripping.
Yeah. We went and surfed this morning. Me and Mana went and surfed this morning.
Yeah, I see the sunscreen.
Yeah, I tried to get it off.
Yeah, you're good. There's one other thing I want to touch bases on is that not only are you a community servant, so is your sister, somebody that I've gotten kind of close with over the years, Cody Peer. now she has her little bundle of joy as well.
Yeah.
And you know, she's been in some pretty interesting situations as well. But one thing I did want to say is that there is a parallel when it comes to the energy that you and her have, and the light that you shine on anybody that comes into your bubble. It's like you have an infectious energy. And I think that, you know, even though there's some darkness, it's part of the balance of life. And I'm sure she's been through her situations. I know that that one of her friends, you know, that in the department, she was part of that one shooting. And it's like, how do you live with that? But what I do know is that you seem to be processing it, and your self-awareness and emotional intelligence seems to be kind of like holding you together. I pray for you, and I pray for Cody, and I pray for everyone in your ohana, because you guys are really, really wonderful people. And I think it's a pleasure for me to know you. So I thank you so much, brother. I mean, I think one important thing is for you to tell the people your business. Talk about that a little bit. You know, tell them what you do. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah. Thanks. I feel the same about you. I met you through Cody. Yeah. I still remember that day I met you. It was at Barber's Point. And I remember it was at the beach. Yes. And Cody texted me. She said, "Hey, are you coming to surf today?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll come and surf." And she said, "I'm at the beach with my friends." And I was just like, "Okay, whatever." And then I go to the beach, and you run up and you shake my hand, and I'm like, I almost felt like you had like this like warmth and this like positive energy that most guys are scared to actually put out. Like a lot of guys are scared to like put walls down. Like we put walls up. And I'm like, wow, like your energy, like the way you came up and introduced yourself to me, and like I was like, this guy is so awesome. Like I remember paddling out, just being like, wow, Ty is a super cool dude, you know?
Thanks, bro.
And so yeah, like that was like I think back to that moment a lot. But I love you, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of this podcast. I'm really excited. But right now we're doing my wife and I, Malia and I, own Peer Films, and we do real estate media. So we're a boutique real estate media company, and we service all of Oahu. Most of our clients are real estate agents. And we do all the photos, videos, floor plans, aerial stuff that you see when you go onto Zillow. Oh. It's really as simple as that.
Wow. And where can they find you?
Our Instagram is Peer Films. Our website is peerfilms.com. I have to remember. I'm like, wait, what's our website name? Yeah, our website is peerfilms.com. And check us out.
I feel like after watching something like this, people would want to support somebody like you. You know,
Thanks,
all the community service that you've done, or global service to humanity. Honestly, and the fact that you're a surfer, you're being a good father, and the entrepreneurship and everything like that. I can't wait to see what's next for Mark and Malia and your family.